Okay, welcome back everyone. Today I'm just going to continue with the Robert Greene 48 Laws of Power, just going through the different chapters. So this video is titled How to Climb the Ladder of Success. Okay, this is Law 34, which is be royal in your own fashion, act like a king to be treated like one. So let's go through this. So this law really emphasizes appearances, and as shallow as that might seem, I can totally understand that. They do matter, right? So when you enter a new environment, let's say you're going for a job interview, your parents might tell you like it's important to dress well, right? And the reality is that most people will, they'll take a look at how you, let's say, have your hair done, or if you have facial hair, if you can grow some, how you dress, how you take care of yourself. And they'll make a judgment on essentially how to treat you based on how you present yourself, how you carry yourself. So that second line there, simply put, if you act a fool, you get treated like a fool. If you act like a king, you will get treated like one. So there is a bit of a catch to this, right? Like if you want to walk around with this kind of energy or vibe, like you run the place, that you're important, that you're like royalty to an extent, and I added this in myself. It's not necessarily in Robert Greene's book, but you do have to back that up, right? I mean, you can walk around with this royal air, like the earth and sun revolve around you, but simply put, like if you are trash, people will quickly recognize like, yeah, this person's full of themselves, and you don't necessarily want to be that. I think what Robert emphasizes in this chapter is like, okay, so you have this like really strong sense of confidence within you, and you feel as if you're destined for great things, and that's fine and dandy. But let's say you attempt something new in your life and it fails, right? It's very important, as Robert would say, that you can't sweat the failures, right? You can't get too concerned, like, oh, like I messed this up, like what are people going to think? You're going to have this very confident mindset, like, yeah, this option didn't work, but the next one will, right? And you're essentially, I guess to an extent, like you're roping people into your, whether it be a facade, whether it be like a magic act, but you're roping people into your charismatic personality and nature. So again, emphasizing that, and later on we'll discuss this as well, there's a bit of an internal aspect to this and an external as well. And so the internal aspect, it's important to know that it's not that you're being arrogant, you're not being, rude and whatnot. It's just a very strong sense of self-confidence. And let's say dignity. Dignity is something that he talks about in this chapter, right? You're being dignified. Like, no, of course I'm a great person. Of course I'm destined for great things. And obviously, you carry yourself that way as well, and you act that way. You don't lower yourself in that regard. But if you go through life with this assumption, people will treat you that way. People will slowly start to bend. This concept of frame, like if you have a very strong frame, and your frame is one of self-confidence, that you're important, that you're relevant, that whatever it happens to be, people will start to shift their the way they see you and the way they treat you because of that. I've experienced this myself as well. So when I was student teaching, just like as a teacher, I was wearing these nice blazers, and I definitely noticed how, oftentimes when I'd go to the gym after a day at school while wearing a blazer, the same people who knew me, knew exactly who I was, would treat me different. They'd just treat me better. Not that they treated me poorly before, but it was like an extra level. And it's like, interesting. Like, nothing has changed about me. What is going on here? All that changed was that the way I was presenting myself to the world, the way I was walking, the way I was carrying myself shifted, and the environment shifted to address that as well. Okay, and this line at the end here, be overcome with your own self-belief, right? It's as if like you're your biggest cheerleader, and you don't need other people to believe that you'll achieve something or not. It's just all within. Okay, and I feel like we've already emphasized this enough, but that second point there, if you dress for the job and act like you got it, people will treat you as such. I often will say the phrase, walk around like you own the place, and if you do, people will just recognize that. Maybe they'll like you're in a store and maybe somebody thinks you're the manager or something or whatever it is. They think you work there, they think you know what you're doing, and you look like you know what you're doing, and so they seek you out as a source of reassurance. Or it's like, hey, this guy he's got to have the answers, right? Whatever it is. But especially like if you go to a job interview and you dress like you just got out of bed, didn't even brush your hair, didn't even bother to take care of yourself, and you're kind of just looking around, not even focused, right? People will not respond well to that. Whereas if you're dressed sharp and you're very focused, and you're basically going through this interview in a manner that, like, oh yeah, I already got the job, I'm just trying to figure out if I want it. uh, Obviously that comes with being competent enough to actually have gotten the job. um, People will bend to this. Okay, so Robert Greene does emphasize three main outward strategies. I think we've talked enough about the inward, right? It's your own self-confidence. But some of the outward strategies he highlights in his book is, number one, make a bold demand. Um, he tells the story of Christopher Columbus in this, and I know that that can be a taboo subject, but I don't quite care. So he emphasizes the story of Columbus, and most people don't know that Columbus was kind of a screw up. He was a failure beforehand, and I'm sure some people would say even afterwards. But he essentially worked his way into the royal courts while being a nobody, and was able to successfully entice the crown into funding his expeditions. And he failed his first two, like he failed some of his early expeditions miserably, but they kept giving him money, because again he emphasized that internal state, and he made this bold demand. Okay, number two, go after the highest person in the building in a dignified manner, right? So if you establish a relationship with the boss, right? You're friends with them, and you're useful to them. Obviously, you don't want to look like a bootlicker. Hopefully, you understand what that means. You don't want to look as if you're bending over backwards to do anything they say, but in a dignified way. Present yourself to this person, because again, the person who owns the place, they're running the place. The shot callers, like they can make things happen for you. And there's many ways to do this. I would say for myself, like uh, how I got myself known in the school district that I work at, and even got the job I currently have, was it wasn't necessarily that I, went after the principals and vice principals in the school, but simply, one, I just emphasized that I treated them, like humans. So I would just say hello, how are you, how's your day going, how's the week going, ask them about if there was some kid in the office or whatever, and say, hey, like, what's going on with this kid. So just trying to like get an understanding of them as a person, but I also made myself aware to them by just doing my job really well, and showing that, hey, what I do with you, I do with everyone, right? I treat people like equals, or I treat people with respect and dignity, and I carry myself that way as well. And so, in that way, you kind of catch the eyes of the people in charge, and and especially like you don't really notice like when these people are looking and whatnot. So if you create that external state, and it maintains itself, it's like, hey, Najib is dignified in XYZ different situations. You start to catch the eyes of the people in charge, and they can make things happen for you. Number three, so giving a gift to those above you. So this is important as well. So particularly if you want to, and I'll just admit I kind of suck at this, because gift giving wasn't really something I necessarily grew up with, culturally speaking. But if you have someone in mind who can do favors for you, help you out, and advance you in your career, you can give them a little gift, right? And so when you ask them for help, it's not as if you're begging. It's almost like they'll see you as equals, right? And I'll be honest, I don't understand this strategy as much as the other two. So you'd have to go in and read Robert Greene's book and kind of get an idea for yourself. But what he really emphasizes is that you're reducing the level between the two of you, right? You're kind of bringing yourself up to their level by giving them a gift and showing that, hey, we're equals. Like, I'm not begging you. It's more so you're just kind of doing me a favor, helping me out, whatever it is. So it's very important here to not confuse confidence with arrogance. Robert Greene emphasizes, like, you're not here to put people down. You're not here to, be vulgar or humiliate people. You're simply expressing that, like, hey, I have this unperturbed frame of self-confidence and being able to support myself, being my own cheerleader, or whatever it is, noble, dignified, and it's unwavering, right? It doesn't matter if people insulting me, if things aren't going my way. I am who I am, and like I see myself as up here, and that's that, right? It's not about pushing people down. It's about just having a very strong frame and setting the bar very high. Now, in terms of reversal, because that's how Robert Greene's books works, you kind of want to be mindful that if you go overboard, this makes you a very visible target for the crowd. If you're always boisterous, if you're always over the top and whatnot, people will start to recognize, like, this guy kind of sticks out, and maybe they'll attack you for that. So you do need to be mindful of that. Okay, but like that second sentence up top, you're just demonstrating an air of confidence, and you're trying to match the people that you associate with, right? And obviously be careful, especially when it comes to money games, right? Like you're trying to match financially someone who is a millionaire, and you're not. Like, you're playing a very risky game, let's call it that. So be careful of the battles you choose. But Robert Greene does emphasize the self-confidence, the internal aspect of this rule. So just wrapping it up. So this law emphasizes appearances, both inwards and outwards. And the idea is, like, you don't want to go through life with this losing spirit, right? So you walk into an interview, and before you walk in, you tell yourself, like, oh, I'm not going to get this job. Like, they're going to tell me to go away, whatever it is. If you walk in with this negativity, the world will respond to that. If you walk in with the winning spirit or positivity, your environment will adapt to that, right? And you can say what you want, but people do pick up on energy. It might be subtle, but we all pick up on this. And if you are in the position where you get to decide who you get to work with, you're probably likely to pick people that you like their energy, they have a good vibe to them, right? They're positive. And it doesn't have to be a toxic positivity, because I know a girl like that, and it's painful to be around someone where you can tell it's very obviously fake. So you don't want to go over the top, but you want to be this positive kind of winning perspective. The last point there, I just reread from the chapter as well. It's imperative that you do not lower yourself, as that will present weakness in your character. So Robert Greene emphasizes this story of these kind of in ancient Greek times, this guy, he wants to get his daughter married off, and so he holds this not just contest, but he also invites these people who would wish to marry his daughter into his home, and he has them stay for a while. And he narrows it down to one guy, and pretty much like on the wedding night, what happens is the guy drinks too much and he starts dancing like an idiot, and the gentleman who's marrying his wife off, he at first he's like, whatever, like I won't blow up, like I'll deal with this later, but this guy's lowering himself, and now I have to view him differently because, again, like as I mentioned at the start, he's acting a fool. The last straw is that, and I don't quite know how to explain this, but it seemed like the guy started dancing upside down on his head, kicking his legs around. At that moment, the patron, he just lost it. He's like, to hell with you. You just danced yourself out of a marriage, right? So hopefully that story clarifies what I mean by that last point. But if you're an athlete, maybe you recognize this as well. And so sometimes a really good team will play poorly because they match the level of a worse team, right? And they're not good at playing at this level. They're good at playing at this level, right? So you don't want to lower yourself. You want to maintain your regal air within. And, how you present yourself in life is how the world will react to you. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you. Have a good day.